Where do you find a pimento with bad taste?
I don't know.
The Olive Garden.
Oh, snap.
Hungry Squared, bringing you the best food talk anywhere.
Welcome to the Hungry Squared podcast where the brain and belly meet. I'm Sharon from the Wasatch Cooking Guide.
And I'm Winter from theredparty.com. This week, we're talking about olives. All about olives.
All of you.
Oh, all of you too. Let's talk about it.
Squared, yeah, Hungry Squared.
Hello, Sharon.
Hey, Winter.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Awesome. How's your week been?
It's been great.
Has it?
It was a 3-day weekend, so I liked starting my week out with the day off from work.
Love that. I don't know about you, Sharon. I totally love 3-day weekends, but I totally hate the work week after.
I usually do, but this has been a knock on wood. It's been a good week.
Okay. It's usually pretty rough for my work.
It is for mine typically too. Like Tuesday feels like 3 Mondays.
Yeah, it never ends. Oh,
yeah.
It's just.
No, this week's been great.
Okay, good. Well, that's good. Our Tuesday wasn't totally awful either, so I can't complain.
Yay.
I can't complain. Did you eat anything fun though this week or this last weekend?
I did. I
think I know what you ate because I saw a picture show up somewhere.
Yeah, you probably saw a picture on Instagram maybe.
I totally did. And I think I maybe saw it on Facebook, ThermalWorks.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So,
tell everybody what you had.
We smoked a full brisket on our big green egg.
Okay.
So, we did not just the flat of the brisket, we also did the point. And then when you're smoking it, at some point during the process, you separate the point from the flat and you make burnt ends with the point, the top part of the brisket.
Okay, you guys, burnt ends are the best part.
Oh yeah.
Of any barbecued meat.
Yes, they're super good.
They're the best.
Usually when you go to barbecue places, they only have them about once a week.
Yep.
And they go pretty fast.
And that's what I usually order if they're available.
Mm-hmm, me too. They're so good. So we had our own burnt ends and it was marvelous.
Yay.
And then we had this really amazing brisket.
Now tell me how long you guys did it for.
18 hours.
Oh, so when did you start it? Sunday night? Saturday night?
Saturday night.
Okay.
Ike figured that if he was going to lose sleep at all doing this brisket, it would be in the middle of the weekend.
That's a good idea.
So it was kind of a good plan. I am really grateful that he did it because it was so good and it was to me, it was worth it.
Good job, Ike.
I don't know. I don't think he had to get up a ton with it, but he just you have to keep checking on it because you have to wrap it. You have to tint it in foil and stuff like that at some part of the process.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's basically what he was doing in the middle of the night, was checking for when to do that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah, it was delicious.
It was delicious. And we used
our ThermalWorks MK4 Thermopen.
Yeah. Those are super handy.
They are super handy. So for those of you that don't know, ThermalWorks makes the most accurate thermometer on the market today.
Recommended by loads of people.
Yeah. Christopher Kimball, Alton Brown, other celebrity chefs.
America's Test Kitchen in general. Yeah.
And it does a fantastic job and it's so fast.
Yeah.
There's no off-on for the MK4 for the Thermopen. You just open it up and it's on. Mm-hmm. And it reads the temperature of the meat in just a couple seconds.
Yeah. It's
really fast.
It's really fast. If you haven't listened to our interview with Martin Earl of ThermalWorks, I'll put a link in the show notes, but that's a fun episode on thermometry.
Yeah, it is.
It was super fun. So that's awesome. Yeah,
we used a couple of different thermometers for it, but whenever we were trying to get the most accurate read for all of the steps in the smoking process, we used the Thermopen.
Nice.
So
very good. Very good. It looked good. I saw the picture and I was like, hello.
It was delicious. What'd you eat this week, Winter?
So I had my own little experiment. Okay, you guys, we've talked about this before, that I am expecting, and I have like no desire to cook or anything. And then when you have a chef husband like Lee around who just likes to cook and really likes to experiment and do stuff like that, then my cooking time in the kitchen has gone down significantly recently. I'm kind of a slacker. So, but some of you may know that Lee's birthday was this last weekend.
Happy birthday, Lee.
And I was like, I got to get my crap together and make him something.
Did you make him a cake?
No, I didn't even make him a cake, Sharon. I didn't even make him a cake. It was so sad. Thankfully, I have siblings that are awesome and they pulled stuff together.
Nice.
But I was like, well, we got a barbecue. It's Memorial Day weekend, right? So I didn't really barbecue, but I've been meaning to do baby back ribs in the Instant Pot.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get my act together and do baby back ribs in the Instant Pot. And then, just have all the other barbecue type fare. So corn and watermelon and the like. And it turned out pretty good. I have to say.
So you did get the baby back ribs in the Instant Pot.
Yeah. So you get a full rack, which is kind of fun. So this is all you do. Full rack. You do salt, pepper, rub on the outside.
Don't you have to break it down a little bit?
Nope. Sharon's looking at me really skeptically, you guys.
Well, because I know how small the Instant Pot is.
Okay, I have a 6-quart, everybody. The 6-quart Instant Pot pressure cooker. And everybody here who has an Instant Pot, they're like, oh, Winter, this is like one of the first things you're supposed to do in the Instant Pot is baby back ribs. And I'm like, okay, I haven't gotten around to it, people. So this was my weekend. So what you do is actually you dry off the meat, salt, pepper. That's it, basic rub. You can do other stuff if you want to. I put in one cup of water into the bottom of the Instant Pot, put the trivet down, and then you kind of roll your ribs into it.
Oh, you roll it up.
Yeah. So they basically kind of
line the Instant Pot.
The outside of the Instant Pot. And it was, we wanted them falling off the bone, very tender. So I did them for about 25 minutes. I followed a recipe from pressure cooker recipes. I'll put a link in the show notes. I always forget it's pressure cooker recipes or pressure cook recipes. Anyway, and it turned out really good. And then you have, I think one of the keys of the Instant Pot, if you're doing meat, is you finish it off under the broiler, because then you want some of that caramelization. Because when you pull out the meat after 25 minutes, you're like, this looks really sad and gray. That sounds terrible.
It does. That sounds disgusting.
But it's because the meat has just been cooked. Or basically feels like steamed. Yeah. And so you take it out, you put it on a rack, you baste all of it with whatever barbecue sauce you prefer. We use Sweet Baby Ray's, and it was so delicious. And I just put it in under the broiler for, let me think. Actually, I cooked it first for a little while and then broiled it for a little bit more toastiness, because I do like burnt ends. And so you can kind of do that with the broiler on high.
Nice. Okay.
So it turned out really good, and they were tender. I would say they were not falling off the bone, but that was, I think, because I got quite a thick cut of baby back ribs. Like, they were not small by any means. There were definitely parts that were very tender. And then there was a couple of parts that were like, now this is not...
Slightly chewier.
It was a little drier than I would want it to be.
Okay.
So I will try again. If anybody has any ideas on how to make it super amazing, let me know, because I'm up for it. Because that was good. That was a fun little experiment.
Nice.
And now for the main course.
Okay, let's get down to our first topic at hand, and that is olives.
Olives. I don't know why we have never talked about olives before.
I think we've kind of skirted the issue of olives.
Which is funny that it's, taken. I don't know.
We've talked a little bit about olive oil.
We have. And I think this might actually end up being a part 1, because we are going to probably go into olive oil a little bit more in depth with an interview at some point in time. So that will be exciting. But for now, let's talk olives then. Sharon.
Yeah.
Tell me about olives.
So they're a fruit that we use as a vegetable.
Yeah. Botanically speaking,
they're a fruit. They are related to lilacs, ash trees, and jasmine.
Right.
They are remarkably hardy and drought tolerant, and they are native to the Eastern Mediterranean region and they can live and bear fruit for literally 1,000 years.
Yeah. There is like historical evidence, right?
Yes. There's even current evidence of really, really old trees bearing fruit.
Craziness.
So among the food oils, olive oil is unique for being extracted because it's not from a dried grain or nut, but it's actually from a fleshy fruit, and carries the prominent flavors of said fruit. So they're cultivated in lots of places, and they are considered naturalized in all of the countries on the Mediterranean coast, as well as Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Java, Norfolk Island near Australia, Bermuda, and California.
Now, when you say naturalized, what does that exactly mean?
So there's native plants.
Okay.
There's non-native plants, and then there's naturalized plants, and there's also invasive plants. So a native plant is part of the balance of nature that's happened in a particular region or ecosystem over hundreds of thousands of years.
Okay.
Like it originated there. An invasive plant is both non-native and it grows quickly, disrupting native ecosystems.
Okay. Makes sense.
Non-native plants are plants that are introduced to a new place with human help, either intentionally or accidentally, where it was not previously found.
Okay.
A naturalized plant is a non-native plant that does not need human help to reproduce and maintain itself over time in an area where it's not native, but it is not invasive.
So it's not wrecking the ecosystem.
Correct.
It does its own thing, doesn't need our help.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense.
And what's cool is that it's considered, I thought was cool, it's considered naturalized in so many different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Argentina, so South America. Norfolk Island is near New Zealand and Australia.
When you said that, I was like, I have no idea where that's at.
Java, so, like near Indonesia and there. California, so North America. Saudi Arabia, so Middle East.
Yep.
And then Europe. So pretty cool. They are also cultivated in parts of China and other parts of Asia as well, and Africa.
So basically pretty much everywhere.
Pretty much everywhere.
But
has
it sounds
olive
like
trees.
From what I understand, though, it is generally in more arid places. It has to kind of can't be too humid, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I mean, the Mediterranean's kind of humid.
Can be.
But yeah, you have to have certain growing conditions have to exist for the olive trees to really bloom and prosper, as it were. So olive trees have been around for forever.
For forever, everybody.
Since the 8th century BC.
Ooh.
Okay, so we have records that far back. They're able to find out that olive trees go that far back. Currently, there are several olive trees that are related, I guess, to ancient olive trees. So there's an olive tree on the island of Brioni in Croatia that has a radiocarbon dating age of about 1,600 years. And it still gives fruit.
Dang.
About 66 pounds a year of fruit.
This one tree.
And that fruit is made into olive oil.
Oh, man. That's probably expensive. Olive oil.
About 90-ish% of olive crops are made into olive oil.
Yeah, that was one thing I was actually quite surprised about. It totally makes sense because we consume olive oil quite a bit in our household, and I know it's considered a good oil. And so I think it's very popular.
Yeah, it's super popular. There's an olive tree in West Athens named Plato's olive tree, and it's thought to be a remnant of the grove where Plato's Academy was situated.
Oh.
And that's an estimated 2,400 years old. The tree had a cavernous trunk and a few branches were still sprouting from it in 1975. And what was sad is that a traffic accident caused a bus to uproot this tree.
No, it didn't.
And so after that, the trunk was preserved and displayed at the nearby Agricultural University of Athens.
Oh, good.
And in 2013, so about 5 years ago, it was reported that the remaining part of the trunk that was still there was uprooted and stolen, allegedly to serve as firewood. It's terrible.
You people are lame. I mean, why would you do that? Okay, well, but the thing is though, like, I wonder if there was like some sort of plaque or
I don't
anything.
know. I don't know.
Because, I mean, olive tree wood is supposed to be very highly prized. It's a good little wood, if I'm not mistaken. So.
Yeah, no, it has a beautiful grain. It's a hardwood. Woodworkers love using it.
Yeah,
it's beautiful wood.
But that's terrible for firewood.
All over Crete and Greece, they have all of these trees that are, their estimated ages are up to 4,000 years old.
It's crazy.
They're crazy. There is a tree in the Catalonia region of Spain that's been estimated using some laser perimetry methods to date back to 314.
Wow.
Which would mean it was planted when Constantine the Great was the Roman emperor.
Man.
So there's some that are protected.
Because of their age.
Because of their age and because of the locations where they're at. Like the Garden of Gethsemane in Jerusalem. There's trees there. They claim to date back to the purported time of Jesus.
Right.
They've only been able to actually, in their older parts of the garden, they've dated the trunks of 3 of the trees, and they can date them back to 1092, 1166, and 1198, respectively.
Okay. Still respectable.
Right.
Respectably old.
And they can also show that those trees were planted from the same parent plant.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So that, goes back even further. And they say that the roots are even older than these tree trunks, of course. So those trees are protected. There's some that have been protected in, let's see, I think it's called Bindi olive trees. They've been confirmed to be 2,000 years old through carbon dating, and those have been protected since 1933. They're listed on a database of national cultural heritage laws to be protected.
Oh, man.
Looks like this is in Malta. So there's a lot of really old trees out there.
It's crazy.
So especially in Europe, Northern Africa, Mediterranean areas, that kind of thing. So like I said, most olives go into olive oil production.
Mm-hmm.
I was really surprised when I was looking up consumption per capita of olive oil. So Greece by far has the largest per capita consumption of olive oil.
Okay.
At over 24 liters per person per year.
Solid. That is solid. They're dousing everything, all the things in the olive oil.
But Italy and surprisingly
Spain's huge.
Kind of tie for second place in
consumption.
Well,
I think Spain actually makes the most olive oil. They've got olive groves everywhere. That was the thing I was so shocked about. Yeah. Because I was thinking Greece and Italy were going to be contenders, and they are. They're high up there.
Yep.
But it was Spain that took the cake on that one.
Yeah, so Italy and Spain consume about 14 liters per person per year.
Solid also.
And then Tunisia, Portugal, Syria, Jordan, and Lebanon all consume about 8 liters per person. So they all tie for third.
Really? Solid.
And then Northern Europe and North America consume far less at about 0.7 liters per person.
What's wrong with us?
Well, that's why everybody else is healthy and we're not.
Yeah, exactly. That must be it.
Yeah.
So, Sharon, I wanted to tell you, I love the history of olives. If you read the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
There is plenty.
I've heard of it.
Loads of references to olives.
Mm-hmm.
And there is actually, Pliny the Elder. Do you know Pliny the Elder? Like as in Sawbones, and they always reference him. He states, except the vine, there is no plant which bears a fruit of as great importance as the olive. He had very high things to say about the olive.
Wow.
I know, exactly. And the other thing that I didn't know about was how olive groves ended up in California. Did you know this? The Spaniards actually brought it in the mid-16th century. They planted them in the Lima, Peru area, and then the Franciscans, the Spanish Franciscans, actually planted the olives in those mission gardens in California. You know how we kind of talked about mission,
San Juan Capistrano, and all that kind of stuff
in the 1700s, and so it's great in California because of that kind of. It is a little bit drier than say maybe the East Coast, because people were trying hard to have it flourish in the East Coast, but it just never worked because it was a little too, the climate was just not right for the olive. Yeah,
you were saying that Thomas Jefferson was trying to grow them.
I know, which I thought was really funny.
And it didn't work out.
Yeah, because Thomas Jefferson, he actually went on a little vacation in the Mediterranean in 1787, and he totally fell in love with the olive tree. He said he called it the worthiest plant to be introduced in America. And so he wanted to bring some back to his home. And at one point in time, the frost kind of killed him off. And so he was trying to get the South Carolina Society for Promoting Agriculture to plant olive trees. And so they brought home like 500 different olive cuttings, but they just didn't survive, because I don't think necessarily it was funny. I thought this was funny. He blamed the South Carolinians for neglect and lack of enthusiasm for the olive tree. But I think it largely has to do with the fact that that area is quite humid and is not it's maybe a little too humid for them to thrive there. So
should have moved to California.
I know,
Jefferson.
exactly. He was fancy though. Anyway, I thought that was really interesting because it's all over the place. Everybody, I'm sure if you've read the Bible, or olive trees and olives have been very important to religious and
and even pop culture, historic pop culture, I guess I should say. Is it even called pop culture?
I don't know.
I don't think so. Because it's historic, ancient times. So the first Olympics.
Yes. Exactly.
The eternal flame.
Yeah.
Was olive oil.
Yep.
And the winners of the first Olympics didn't get gold medals.
Nope.
They had wreaths, crowns of olive branches.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot, like you said, it's a symbol of peace, to extend the olive branch.
Yep.
So, and if you wanted to be a jerk face monkey head, I mean, you could, if you talked about burning somebody's olive trees, then that's war. You are not messing around. So anyway, I wanted to interject a little bit of that history into that because I thought it was so interesting.
So the olive is typically, it's pretty bitter.
Yeah. Can I tell you a little story?
Yeah.
Last year, Lee and I went to Italy. It was awesome.
On an awesome vacation.
We did, without our child. We missed her. Don't get me wrong. We missed her. But we went to Cinque Terre, which is the kind of the five lands. And we went on a lovely hike, which was quite strenuous.
Was it?
Between one village to the next. And as we were coming down thousands of steps, we really did come down.
Okay.
Coming down from one of these villages, we stopped to rest, because when you come down lots and lots of steps, your quads start to cramp up. Mm-hmm. So we sat for a second, and there was a little olive grove right there. And Lee's like, I want to try one of those olives. And
So you're in an olive grove, you're walking through?
No, it really was just there's this path of stairs, and there's a little stone wall, and it's a short little guy. So we sat on it, and there were there's olive trees behind us, and there's a few branches that have come over the wall easily. Mm-hmm. And Lee's like, oh, I just want to try one. So he plucked one, and he stuck it in his mouth, and he regretted it immediately. Because olives, unprocessed, unfermented, unbrined are pretty nasty.
They're really bitter.
They're super bitter. And I did not realize. Actually,
Did he spit it out?
He did.
What did he do?
Oh yeah, he did. Oh, he's like, here, you got to try this winter. You know, that's what you do. Like, right? If something's bad, like, hey, smell this or taste this or whatever.
Tell me if it tastes bad.
Yeah. And so of course I also tasted just a smidge and I was like, oh, that's so bitter. And so I don't know why. I didn't realize olives need to be processed.
Did you have water with you?
We did.
Okay.
Yeah, we were fine. But it was one of those things where it was just like, it was never on my radar. I don't know why.
Why would we do that?
It was never on my radar. And so this is one thing as we were researching this topic, is that there is there are a lot of interesting compounds in olives that create the flavors that are in there. And it's been really fun. Let's talk really quickly about the harvesting process.
Yeah.
So
how they're cured.
Exactly. So when they're harvested, actually, it does have a lot to do with the ripeness, right? Some people will go ahead and use a little bit more of a cost-efficient method and use sticks or machines to shake the fruit off of the tree. And then other ones are the olive growers that are a little bit more, they care about it. They will pick the fruit at ripeness, ones that are ripe, by hand. That's expensive, obviously.
Yeah, that's how the Kalamata olives actually are harvested, is by hand.
By hand, and you can choose the ripe ones. You can choose them, and it less bruising, less wear and tear on the fruit itself. So totally makes sense to do it that way, but very, very expensive. Now, this is really interesting. I think this one you can bring up if you are having a dinner party or at a mingling or something like that. There are no green olive trees. Did you know that?
What do you mean by a green olive tree?
So you think you're like, oh, this olive is green.
Mm-hmm.
There must be a type of olive that is a green olive tree that produces it. It's actually has nothing to do with a variety of olive tree. It has everything to do with ripeness. So green olives are not as ripe as ones that have black that are black.
Yeah, so they go like green to purple to black.
Yeah, so they go green, light brown, they'll go red even and purplish, and then eventually to that deepest black. And those ones, so the ones that are green, they're going to be kind of at the start of the harvest season when you pull those. And those are obviously a little bit firmer in texture. And then the blacker olives are picked later in the season, November and December, sometimes even as late as January. And those ones are obviously going to be a little softer, but they will be meatier, kind of richer in flavor. And so we're going to talk a little bit about black olives, the ones that you stick on your fingers. Did you do that as a kid?
So I did, but then I didn't want to eat them.
Oh.
And so I remember getting yelled at. I think I was at my grandma's house or something like that for wasting food. So I was always kind of jealous of like my cousins and friends who liked to eat olives because they could put them on their fingers, but I hated them as a kid, so I never did that.
That's a shame. It's like I don't know. We did that all the time.
Because I didn't want to eat them.
Yeah, you don't want to eat them. You want to play with them, but not eat them. Okay, I get that. So let's talk about the compounds that are in olives specifically. They have a compound called oleuropin.
Yep.
And that is what gives its intense bitterness. It is not poisonous. It is not harmful. It is just extremely bitter. Now, they have very, very high, and we talked a little bit, you kind of mentioned this, but they are a fruit, but they do not have a very high sugar content, obviously. But they do have a hugely high oil content, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we get our the olive oil from it. So it ranges between 20 to 30%. That is a lot. That's a ton. So how do you get rid of oleuropin, which is this bitter compound? And I've always wondered, like, how did they, as I was researching this, I was wondering, like, why would anybody want to put it in their mouth and be like, I think we can do something with this? Because it's so bitter, like bitter, you guys. It's just terrible. But apparently people were like, there's got to be something going on with this. And maybe it was because of the whole oil.
Yeah. Yeah. Prehistoric people, like,
crushed them and
like they've got like an olive crusher and stuff like that because they could see just by like very rudimentary smashing that it would render oil that way.
So that's why. So they must have thought, we're not dying from the oil. That's right. That's good.
It's useful.
It's useful. So we can go ahead and leach those that really bitter tasting oleuropin and these other phenols, which are the kind of the fragrant things that give compounds. It's a compound that gives its fragrance to a lot of things. So you can water cure it, for example. Now this is basically rinsing in plain water and repeating and repeating and repeating. It is a slow, arduous method. And so many people just don't do it just because it just takes forever. You can imagine probably uses a ton of resources, water resources. So that is one way that people do it. You can also do brine curing. Now that's when basically fermented in brine. So just a salt water. This also takes up a lot of time, up to a year actually, but eventually it leaches off all of that bitter tastes. And so it actually, you get a really nice sweet, which is surprising to me, and very meaty type of an olive. I thought that one was actually that would be kind of fun to try, even though I don't know where I'd get olives, like natural raw olives. But I'm like,
order them somewhere.
I know. I was like, oh, that would be interesting. You could also dry cure them, which is you're packing these olives in salt for a month or longer. So then obviously salt, because of it's going to pull off moisture and the bitterness also along with it from the olives. Now, once the salt is then removed, and you can go kind of basically plump them back up by sticking them in olive oil. Yeah, it usually is what ends up happening. Now, as you can imagine, you're pulling off moisture from those. So you are getting a super concentrated flavor of olive. And so they kind of look pruny, but they're like in a pack a punch. They're going to be super, super really good. So that's a nice option. The thing that most people do is lye curing. And this is done for commercial purposes because it's fast. It's cheapish. Yeah, I think it's probably less expensive than doing all these other things that take a long time, right? You're going to be able to.
So when I get those quote unquote those black
pearls,
olives, like in a can,
yes,
that you put out at Thanksgiving for the kids to put it on their fingers, that has been lye cured.
Yeah, likely. Mm-hmm. So what ends up happening there? This actually was invented in Spain because they produce a lot of olives. So they are going to immerse raw olives in vats of alkaline lye solution. So when we talk about lye, everybody's like, really?
Soap chemicals.
Yeah. But it's been used for years for many things, right? I mean, it's been used for a lot of different food preparations, and it will once again pull off all of that bitterness. However, it can be a little it can leave the olive wanting in its olive flavoring. It can maybe taste a little chemically.
Those commercially processed olives don't taste as olive-y.
No, they don't.
As maybe those Kalamata olives that are packed in olive oil.
Oh man, those things will punch you in the face. But these ones are kind of, if you think about it, a little on the sad side, I'd say.
They, as far as olives go, yes.
Yeah, it really is kind of, it's shocking. So there's that, and I'm going to mention a little bit about those mission olives in just a second. But there is actually another way you can go ahead and cure olives, is that you can sun or air cure them. Just leave them out in the sun and they will ferment, and there's a specific, there's a couple of varieties that work, but the Thrubolia variety from Crete is one of the examples where they leave them on the tree and just let them sun cure, so that eventually some of those bitter compounds will not be so prevalent as they get older. That's kind of what ends up happening. I wrote a paper let me just actually give you a quote on this. It was in Science Pharmaceutical in 2010, and they talk about oleuropin in olive oil and its pharmacological effects. So it does talk about how it peaks, that compound kind of peaks when it's still kind of a young fruit, and then it will start dropping off as it gets older. So I can see how that would, after a while, if you just let it sit on the tree, it would just do its thing and call it good. So, but yeah, now those black olives, let's go back to that.
Yeah,
really quickly. They're labeled as ripe.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's actually, it was a California invention, everybody. So
the black olive.
Oh,
okay.
They're green olives. So they are harvested kind of early.
Okay.
Earlier in the season. And they've been cured in that same alkaline solution. So basically the whole lye solution. And then they're treated with oxygen, because then that basically...
So it oxidizes the color and
exactly.
turns them black from green.
Exactly.
Wow.
I know. And then...
so they're the same as a green olive.
Yes. Well, I mean, like I said, they were originally a green olive. And so kind of a younger flavor, right? And then they are also treated with an iron compound, ferrous gluconate, so that they can kind of stay, this nice shiny black color.
Wow.
I know. Yeah. I thought that was super interesting. I was like, interesting. This is so crazy.
Tricky.
I know, it's super tricky. Anyway, that's kind of the way that they can be processed. I did not know this. I don't know why. It was just not on my radar at all. Like, I thought you could just pluck them off, and nope, that's so not true, people. Don't do that. Don't do that. Let's cover a couple of basic olives really quickly.
Okay.
Because I really think people, most of the time, only have those black olives that people usually only eat black olives.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of sad, I think. Calamatas. Let's talk about those.
Those are my favorite.
Are they?
They are olivey. They're meaty. They're in a Greek salad.
Yep.
They're packed in like a vinegar, like a
red wine
vinegar and an olive oil mixture usually. And they're just really tasty.
Yep. And they are usually, so if you haven't ever seen them before, they are usually a deep purple color.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Yeah. Deep purple to black even.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're a light brown and they're really large.
Yeah.
They're like really large.
Yes.
Sometimes like twice the size of your typical sad black olive that we were just talking about.
Oh, man.
And they're hand-picked.
Yeah.
That's what I read.
And
they're hand-picked to avoid bruising.
This one I love, actually. And maybe this would be good for the ones that are not hand-picked. I mean, like if you find ones that look a little bit sadder, but I think they're awesome in tamponades. Yes. Basically an olive kind of a spread, wouldn't you say? Mm-hmm. Like they're so good. And it's such a zingy flavor. Like I love how rich it feels. So now Castelveltrano, those are those very green. They're like super bright green, and they are considered very sweet actually. And it's kind of a snacky olive, and it's from Sicily, and they are great with sheep's milk, some white wine if you're into that. But yeah, really a pretty bright green, like Kermit the Frog color green. Mm-hmm. And they're not as big as Calamatas, I wouldn't say. Would you say that? I think.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
They're not.
They're super good. Another one that I really, and I don't know how to say this, I think it's French. Niçoise?
Niçoise.
Oh man, I totally butchered that.
Niçoise.
Like that. Yeah. They are very integral. So these ones are kind of they're that brownish, could be light brown to dark brown, almost a purplish hue to them. And they are prevalent in the French Riviera area. And same thing, they have great in salad niçoise. Mm-hmm. I've never known how to say that. I don't know how to do that little C with the tail.
Yeah.
Great in tamponades. And I feel like they're not as overpowering as Calamatas, I think.
Yeah. Because they're milder.
They're milder in flavor. And I kind of like that, actually. Those are kind of the ones that I kind of I gravitate to. How about you? Well, and Mission ones too. Those are the black olives.
Yeah. So I have only liked olives as an adult, and I started liking them at cocktail parties.
Well, I mean, they're there.
So I would, late 20s, going out with friends and things like that. People would, we would take turns hosting each other. And I'm thinking of this particular group of friends that I had. We would work together, but we also played together a lot. We were all very good friends.
Yeah.
And it was really a good little mix of us. And we just enjoyed each other's company and stuff like that. And so we would take turns hosting each other. We would go out together in the evenings, sometimes on the weekends, but lots of times we would just hang out in each other's homes.
Yeah.
And, invite other friends and things like that. And so we kind of ended up having this little cocktail party club amongst us. And, sometimes it was after work and I would be ravenous. And the only things to eat were like the olives, because not everybody ate them.
Yeah.
And so
It's
you
not
know,
for
the
everybody.
cheese is gone really fast, and like
Yeah.
the little like salamis and cold cut meats and stuff like that. Those are all gone really fast. And so I'm still hungry.
Yep.
And so I would end up eating the olives.
Oh man, and they're so good.
And I'm like, oh, olives. But then I realized they were kind of filling. And so I would just keep eating them. And I was like, oh, all right. I'm not hangry anymore. I'm okay. I can interact with people. And then I started to kind of recognize nuances between the different olive types.
Right. I don't think I love the black olives because we stuck them on our fingers. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I think everybody does that. So this is like a sweet, and I always think of this. My mom loved olives.
Mm-hmm.
And so she would always, like when they were at a party or something, she'd always ask my dad to put olives on his plate so she could, sneak them. And after she passed away, my dad, he doesn't like olives. And so after she passed away, he kept getting olives, even though he doesn't like them, just out of habit.
Aww.
And I know it's so sweet. And so I'm like, I love those black olives. I know that they're super processed, don't have a ton of flavor, because I didn't come into olives until I was an adult as well.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing. Thankfully, I have friends that have good taste / will introduce me to a charcuterie board that is not boring. So, and we'll try a few things, but it's been kind of fun to try new olives and go try different tapenades that have been so just delicious. And you're like, oh man, this is so good with this cheese, or this is so good with the salami. I mean, it makes it so delicious. I'm curious to know what other kind of olives that people like. So,
well, one olive that I don't necessarily care for is the pimento stuffed olive.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about that.
Because I've always thought that they are kind of bitter.
Oh, okay.
So
tell me what a pimento is. Let's
talk about that. So green olives.
Yes.
The green olives that have the little red thing in them.
Yep.
Right? What the heck is that, and how did that come to be?
Mm-hmm.
So as we were talking, the green olive is pretty bitter. And a lot of different countries actually stuff those green olives with something to kind of cut through them and to kind of match the taste, like to complement the flavor.
Okay.
With something a little bit sweet or salty or something like that.
Yeah.
So the pimento is actually a cherry pepper, which is small and red, hence the name. And they're sweeter than a red bell pepper. So they're super mild, and they have the lowest Scoville rating out of all of the chilies.
Okay.
So it's just this really pretty sweet chili pepper.
Yeah.
The pimento, nobody really eats just straight pimentos. Like, these tacos call for pimentos or anything like that. Mostly it's just used as the center of a green olive, or it's mixed into some cheese. As we were talking about, green olives fresh off of the tree are very bitter. So those are traditionally cured in a brine before they're packaged. But to make them even more palatable, usually something else is added to them. So in the US, the most popular thing to add is the pimento. So in the early 60s, pimentos were sliced and then stuffed into the olives by hand.
Okay.
Now, the Sadrim company in Seville, Spain, introduced the first automatic olive stuffing machine in 1962.
What?
Yeah. And they are still the largest manufacturer of olive stuffing machines, equipment today.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, hand picking, hand stuffing, like, that's a lot of manpower. It's labor intensive. And those olives are small and slippery. And
so most of the pimento pushing machines are still made in Spain because Spain produces so many olives.
So many olives, you guys.
And then it's funny because in Spain, their favorite olive stuffing of choice is anchovies.
Oh.
Kind of cool.
So a little bit of salty.
Mm-hmm, to go with that bitter.
That bitter.
Cut it.
Interesting.
Now you'll notice that it's kind of like a square shape inside your green olive. Yeah. Right. So most of the modern machines use a mixture of mashed pimentos combined with a gelatin mixture. And they form that into large sheets. And then these sheets are sliced into strips. And they're fed into the stuffer on large rolls. So the stuffing machine, which can be precisely calibrated, first cuts a plug in the the size of the pit in one end of the olive, and it pushes that pit out using an X-shaped punch on the opposite end of the fruit.
Oh yeah.
So that's why you see that X.
Okay.
Because that pushed out the pit. And then it stuffs the little rectangle, the little square of pimento in there.
The pimento plug.
There's a strip of pimento that's injected into that empty cavity.
Dude. Now,
cool, huh?
Yeah, that is pretty cool. So the pimento, you say that's probably largely American.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And they use anchovies
in
Spain.
Mm-hmm.
So do they also create an anchovy paste with gelatin and stuff that in, or is that still hand stuffed?
Not clear, but they do produce, this Sadrum company in Seville produces a lot of automatic olive stuffing machines.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure that they've engineered one for anchovies.
Why not?
But I just didn't see that.
Okay.
So
That's so interesting.
I just thought it was really fascinating with the pimento.
Yeah, I've kind of
Because
wondered
you
what
see,
that
like,
was.
The olive loaf, like that gross sandwich meat.
Yep. And it's
right.
got the green olives.
Got the pimento,
and the
though.
pimento,
it's
yeah.
like sliced into it. So just kind of a curious, weird thing.
Because why not?
Yeah.
Why not? We've done weird stuff to our food before.
Yeah. So now it's just tradition.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Well, that was really interesting, Sharon. Thanks for sharing that, because who knew? Pimentos,
Right.
olives,
Right.
delicious. Our podcast is brought to you by our awesome and food-loving sponsor, IKEA. You guys, it's time again for the Midsummer Smorgasbord.
On Friday, June 15th, enjoy a traditional all-you-can-eat Swedish midsummer smorgasbord at IKEA.
Yes, we did this last year, Sharon,
We did.
and it was so much fun.
The IKEA smorgasbords are really fun.
Yeah.
They are good for the whole family, and it's all you can eat.
Yeah. So the cool thing is that they'll, like, if you don't know what traditional Swedish food is, they have a really lovely spread. They also have, they're going to have some activities for the family. So I encourage you to do that. You could make a wreath last time. There was they danced around a little midsummer pole. They had a pretty little display, but of course the food is kind of what everybody goes for. So we're going to be there.
Yeah, we're going to be there. We're going to be at the IKEA in Draper, and the IKEA Draper seating times are 4 to 5:30 and 6:30 to 8.
Yep. We'll be at the later one.
We'll be at the later one.
So come say hi to us.
Yeah, come say hi and check out your local listings if you're not in Utah to go to the IKEA of Draper. Your local IKEA will be having one as well.
Yeah. And I was going to say that the price is usually $16.99 for adults or $4.99 for children 12 and under. But if you're an IKEA family member, which it's free to join,
you get a huge discount.
Yeah, it's like $12.99 versus and $2.99. So it's totally, it's where it's at. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be delicious. And they're giving giveaways. And we're going to be giving away some of our awesome
swag,
our t-shirts in particular. And they're funny. You know, you want one. Let's talk about it.
Or say, I'm not your friend.
Yeah. Come on. Those are awesome.
They're good conversation starters.
They totally are. People have come up to us on the street for those t-shirts. And so I'm just saying, it's going to be good food and it's going to be a lot of fun and swag, right?
Yep. Friday, June 15th.
We'll see you there.
Let's have a food fight.
Food fight, food fight, food fight, food fight. It's winter.
This is the segment where you can email us with your relationship questions relating to food. You can email us at hungrysquared@gmail.com.
Disclaimer, we are in no way professional relationship experts, but you should totally listen to us anyway. If you need professional help, please seek it out.
Food fight, food fight, food fight. The food fight segment of the show. Here we go.
Sharon, do you have this week's question? I hope so, because I don't have it up.
I do.
Okay.
It says, Dear Hungry Squared, the break room at work is a mess. Every time I go in there, the microwave is dirty. There's dishes in the sink. There's crumbs everywhere, and something smells in the refrigerator.
It's so true. That's so true.
Ugh. There's a couple of us who are neat and tidy, but there's many, in all caps, who aren't. How can I get my coworkers to clean up after themselves? I'm close to leaving a passive-aggressive note. Help.
Passive-aggressive note.
Signed, not going to take it anymore. Winter, what are your thoughts?
Passive-aggressive note.
Oh, really?
Oh,
you
yeah.
think you should leave a passive-aggressive note?
Okay, so the problem is that who's sharing your break room, first of all? Because that could be several different people that you that are not from your office. They're from the neighboring office or whatever there just happens to be, like the refrigerator that everybody puts stuff in. I think that somebody needs to police that, but there's very few people that want to police that or have the authority to police that. And I say police that in the sense of like, hey, every Friday we're going to clean out the fridge.
Yeah.
Like, who wants to go and clean out the fridge every Friday? Not I, said Winter.
Not I, said the cat.
Like, unless they've been given the like, okay, this is part of your job, then great. Because I think if we could do that, that's the best way to go. Just be like, have a note that says this will be cleaned out every Friday. Or something like that.
Yeah. At my work, it's cleaned out every Friday. I have no idea who does it. I think it's actually the janitorial staff.
Really?
Has left the notes. Yeah. And they just throw everything away at 6 o'clock.
I think
doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Everything in the refrigerator gets thrown away.
The food, the Tupperware, the everything.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I worked in an office once where, oh gosh, it was a big break room. There's probably like 3 refrigerators, 3 microwaves. Yeah. And I want to say like 150 people or so shared that break room.
It's a lot of people.
But it got gross.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things that they did is a lot of these managers who had teams using that break room, they all got together. And I think what it was is that enough people complained about it.
Oh yeah.
To their manager that the managers decided to get together. And so they kind of did a chore chart.
Oh, that's good.
So for like a few weeks / months, maybe 2 months or something, it was like a different team's responsibility to clean the break room.
Really? That's motivation right there.
It got to the point where it wasn't gross anymore and just...
People just upkept it.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, they were deep cleaning those microwaves. They were deep cleaning the sinks. Like cleaning products were purchased or available. I don't know which, but they were available. And so, every like teams of 10 to 12 people were tackling the break room. So it would get done in like 10 minutes or something like that. But I mean, you might have had a really dirty job to do.
Oh yeah.
And
microwave.
Yeah.
After weeks of not...
Weeks / months. I mean, it was like everybody's SpaghettiOs had exploded in there. Yeah. It was so gross.
Unfortunately, there's going to be some situations where you kind of have to just write the passive aggressive note just because like, hey, everybody, and the thing is, it doesn't have to be rude. In fact, there's a couple of notes that are up on.
You can sign it Captain Obvious.
Yeah.
This break room is a wreck.
Yeah.
Clean up after yourselves.
Clean up after yourself. But there's one that actually I really liked because I think somebody did come in and kind of wiped everything down and just they posted rules, and maybe this was from a manager. I'm not totally sure, but they posted rules. And then for like a month or so, and it kept up. And then there was a nice little, once again, reminder, but like, hey, thanks everybody for keeping the break room clean. It looks awesome. Like it was kind of one of those give a dog a good name kind of a thing. Like, hey, you guys are doing good. Keep up the good work. And that helps people. So one of the things that you said, I was like, that would probably be helpful is if you really wanted to encourage that, if it was a break room that's small enough, sometimes just tracking down some cleaning stuff and having it available, because sometimes those are not available. Like you don't see dish soap, you don't see
it's locked up somewhere in a central location
in a janitor's
might not even be on your floor.
Exactly. And so even just having some available and just having notes saying, hey, if something explodes in the microwave, there's some stuff under the sink so you can clean it up. Like just pointing out those things, because I think that some of the times I try to clean up a mess that I've made in the microwave.
But you can only do so much with a napkin.
Yeah, a napkin, or they might not. Yeah, it's just difficult. So trying to maybe track down cleaning supplies and having those readily available, I think would be extremely helpful, and maybe less passive aggressive.
Yeah.
More helpful.
The dollar store surprisingly has actually really good cleaning products.
You could totally do that too. I'm not going to encourage you to do passive aggressive, but unfortunately sometimes you have to.
PassiveAggressiveNotes.com is really an entertaining website.
Oh yes.
Have the time to peruse.
We have done that before. We've talked about a couple of those. Those are funny. Good luck. And you know what? This is kind of my other thing is if something is funky in the refrigerator, like mold is growing on it,
feel free to throw that away.
Throw it away.
Throw it away. Don't, even if it's in a nice glass container and like, woo.
Somebody has apparently forgotten about it to have it grow that funkiness on it.
Exactly.
Get rid of it.
Yeah. I mean, you've forfeited it at that point, you know?
It's no longer yours.
Even if you've forgotten it, and even if it's your favorite piece of glassware in your kitchen and you just needed somebody to say something.
Yeah.
But like if it's growing a science experiment,
get rid of it.
Yep.
And I always say parties are tricky for us because everybody brings stuff and it's like, it's free to everybody. But we instated a rule in our refrigerator of like, okay, even though we had a party this week, you have to take your stuff home.
Yep.
At the end of the week. Like people can snack on stuff. They can continue eating all the food stuffs from the party. But on Friday, you're taking it home.
Yep.
That's all there is to it. Give that a try.
Thanks for joining us today for our show. You can find us at hungrysquared.com, on Apple Podcasts, on Stitcher, Google Play Music, and Spotify.
Woohoo! Hey, you guys. So once again, we are getting close to episode 100. So if you have any lovely thoughts on what we should do to change things up, let us know at hungrysquared@gmail.com. And then, of course, please follow us on Instagram and on Facebook at Hungry Squared Podcast or at Hungry Squared on Instagram. So we are kind of having a lot of fun. And then we're going to be doing a ton of giveaways at our 100th episode. So woohoo! Join us there. It's going to be fun. Join us next week for our next episode of Food Nerdery.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.
Hungry Squared, yeah, Hungry Squared.